What's up, Shazam family? We're back for more Injustice 1 Shazam tech because, you can never get enough. You can never get enough. And I love this character, and let's keep talking about him. So this is a system-wide thing, I believe, that we're going to be going over today. But whether or not, when you hit your opponent, um, different things happen depending on whether or not they are standing or ducking. Obviously, things change as well in the air when you hit your opponent in the air, but there's a ton of variables there, so let's just stick to standing and ducking. So, good way to show this off, down 2. On a standing opponent, they get launched fairly high. On a ducking opponent, they actually get hit less high. Good way to show this off to show that they, so you can't, when you cancel Herculean Might, you don't get grabbed. On ducking opponents, they'll get grabbed. So the reason I bring this up is this can kind of change how you do combos, and there's some very specific examples. So back 2-3 is affected by this. On a standing opponent, you'll notice that Batgirl's chest, her boobs barely go over the middle of that health bar, if they even touch it. Right? At her peak. Now, back 2-3 is an overhead string, right? It starts with an overhead, so you're going to want to use it on opponents who are ducking. When you do, you'll notice that her chest goes to the top of the health bar. So you actually get a little more height when you use this on ducking opponents. I don't know if this is sort of to reward players for using the right move at the right time. But this means that stuff like this, down 2 into back 3 for like meterless damage, gets slightly easier. Not easier right now because I haven't really practiced this. But again, it gives you a few more frames to mess around with. Promise that works. Cool. So that's one of the moves that is affected. So let's see, what else? Oh yeah, there is... So let's start off with forward 1-2. So I made a video about this just recently. But the 3 there, the standing 3 after forward 1-2 is much more difficult to hit on standing opponents. It's actually easier to hit on smaller characters like the girls as opposed to bigger, blockier characters like Doomsday. I was very surprised about that. So let's say that you miss with the forward 1. You notice that she actually bounces higher and stays closer, making the 3 way easier to land. So again, sort of rewarding you for landing that, for getting them, for landing your overhead. Cool. So forward 1-2 is changed, so that's back 2-3, forward 1-2. Surprisingly though, using forward 3, when you hit in a standing opponent, you actually bounce them higher as opposed to ducking. I don't know why that is. I've always thought that this combo in particular is way easier when done to a standing opponent. Forward 3-3, like it feels weird. And I actually went frame by frame and checked like her peak, and she's actually lower. So this is just sort of an interesting thing that I was never. I think I knew this subconsciously, and I adapted my combos. But ever since I've sort of started exploring Shazam a little more, I've noticed that there's a lot of interesting things about this game that I really took for granted and didn't understand and couldn't put into words. Now I can. There are specific things that help Shazam land other things based on the opponent's stance, whether they're standing or ducking. So yeah, that's it, gang. I think those are like the 4 specific moves: down 2, forward 3, back 2-3, and forward 1-2. Those are the only moves. So it was back 2-3, back 2-3, forward 1-2, down 2, and forward 3. And that's it. Oh, so good to talk about Shazam. Might do a little more Shazam stuff just for fun on wake-ups and stuff. Anyway, later, dudes.